Hello, and thank you for joining me today as I walk through a reflection on what I have identified as a rather profound problem across the millennial generation. It's one that I'm very passionate about, and I think there needs to be more attention brought to it because it's really not highlighted too much in the news. And if it's left unaddressed, it could have detrimental impacts across the globe. Before I dive into details, I'd like to kick off today's presentation with a brief overview of my background and passion for developing a solution to this issue. From there, I'll dive into a summary of what I have identified as a rather profound problem, its current situation, its impact, and root causes. I'll also guide you through the solutions I explored and the intended path forward, followed by an execution plan. I'll conclude with a reflection on key takeaways, but first, I'd like to take a minute to cover a little bit more about me. My name is Christina Cannon, but I'm most oftenly called Tina, and I've been in the healthcare industry for well over 10 years with a background in business growth, strategy, and innovation. But my passion really lies in developing unique solutions for really complex problems and solutions that can spur dynamic change. So when I came across an article regarding the millennial generation and some alarming healthcare trends across a particular segment of that population, it naturally piqued my interest. As I've read more about the observed trends in this segment, especially over the last 2 years, I've recognized that I have a potential to channel my background and interests to serving a greater cause, and one that's in developing a solution that could stop the bleed on a problem that is really spiraling out of control. So I've given a primer on the overall issue at hand and the fact that there is a health gap in the millennial population. However, I want to tee up today's conversation with more details on the problem to really equip you with the foundational mission that has driven my focus. So millennials have anecdotally been revered as a rather healthy generation and one that is equipped with much more accessible knowledge than generations past. However, recent studies reveal a drastic paradigm shift in this generation, turning them into the ultimate health paradox. This shift is so profound that it has captured the attention of Blue Cross Blue Shield and even Moody's, who have partnered to conduct a robust, continuous study on the impacts of unhealthy millennials across the U.S. And what they have uncovered to date is that millennials are really a ticking time bomb to the economy at a global scale. So specifically, those who fall into the age bracket of 31 to 45 are at risk of increases in chronic health conditions and mental health disorders that will serve as a challenge to their ability to work and have a quality of life. And then that risk of not developing a solution for that issue could lead to exponential increases in unemployment, lower life expectancy rates, and a rather costly landscape for the economy. Millennials, they may think they're healthier with their Pelotons and green smoothies, but how exactly are millennials receiving accurate information and guidance on their health? And I ask that because the stats don't really stack to their favor in the health department. Millennials have a sense of naiveness around this topic, and without having the foundation of preventative health care established in their lives, they incorrectly perceive themselves as healthy. Blue Cross Blue Shield, for example, found that over 80% of millennials characterize themselves as healthy. But the reality is, when you break that down further, only 70% surveyed actually had a primary care physician and sought preventative care. So without having a primary care physician and receiving preventative care, at least on an annual basis, the onset of disease can go undiagnosed, it can become more progressed, and even more costly by the time it's actually identified. So what Blue Cross has discovered is that the actual onset of diseases in millennials are most likely occurring at an early age, but the initial diagnosis doesn't actually take place until late 20s, most likely around the age of 27. Most of the diagnoses are occurring in women and in geographic pockets across the southern states of the U.S., some sprinkled in the Northeast. Diseases impacting the segment of society include major depression, hyperactivity, type 2 diabetes, some cardiac-related issues, with the prevalence of these diseases occurring at rates that have never been seen before. I mentioned some of the conditions seen in this generational segment, but breaking this down and as presented on the screen is a visual account for the differential seen in the presence of mental health, cardiovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes, and other physical conditions as compared to the prior generation at the same age range. If left untreated, some of these diseases, like cardiac and endocrinology-related conditions, can become chronic, meaning millennials may face a lifetime of not only having to live with addressing these conditions and the coinciding challenges of living with a disease that could have been prevented. According to the CDC, 6 out of every 10 Americans will be diagnosed with a chronic disease, which will only add to the compounding $3.8 trillion currently spent on healthcare related costs across the U.S. The level of impact does not just rest with the healthcare expenditure rates, however. It will trickle into many other areas and serve as a punctuated equilibrium to the economy. Blue Cross Blue Shield anticipates that if these realized conditions continue to spiral in millennials, it will lead to an unproductive workforce who will eventually become unable to work and will need to rely on financial streams such as disability to survive. An unproductive workforce will be detrimental to businesses and the national GDP. It will also eventually impact the global economy. And it doesn't stop there. Upticks in mortality rates can even occur, given some of these conditions cut the ability to live a long, healthy, and prosperous life. We discussed the current state of affairs, but let's talk about what is driving the health impacts that we're seeing today. So take, for example, the way of life today. One-income households are almost obsolete. Millennials, especially those in the age groups of 31 to 45, who most likely are starting families at this point of their life, are faced with needing multiple incomes today in order to make or even have a decent living. And it's not just about needing multiple incomes, because there's also a pressure from corporations to outperform and work longer hours to achieve upward mobility. 2/3 of a recent sample group of millennials attested they were willing to work egregious hours in order to grow in their careers and reach desirable income brackets. Let's also factor in the paradigm shift to remote work life. With work easily accessible at our fingertips, longer hours worked are more likely to occur. The lack of segregation between work and personal time or time with family becomes realized with noon meetings or losing track of time with working until 7 p.m. It leaves no attention to oneself. So while millennials should draw a line in the sand and implement healthier boundaries to prevent work from bleeding into their personal lives, corporations are very much to blame for allowing this disproportionate work lifestyle in order to achieve financial growth. So corporations are rewarding an overproductive workforce. It's leading to increases in mental drain, stress, and even depression as the ultimate sacrifice. And the pandemic did not help with the unbalanced scales between work and personal. So in fact, several ramifications for the ramp up of unhealthier habits among millennials were seen during this time frame. There were increases in alcohol consumption by 34%, smoking by 20%, vaping by 17%, and non-medical use by 16%. So unfortunately, these unhealthy activities trace back to increases I mentioned in mental drain, stress, and even depression. The pandemic catapulted these behavioral health challenges even more, and because of the increases in alcohol consumption and other unhealthy habits, there becomes a linkage to developing conditions. So studies have found that millennials with declining behavioral health trends and bad habits are twice as likely to develop coronary artery disease, diabetes, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, hypertension, and even high cholesterol. Let's also take into account the current inflation impacts on behavioral health and poor habits. Many millennials are dealing with living off of lines of credit to afford average living costs, such as rent and food, which is leading to compounding stressors that will also contribute to mental impact and unhealthier habits. So as you can see, the driving factors for this problem have many tentacles that have become the perfect storm. So initially, there was a myriad of solutions explored. With a primary focus on telehealth, the initial concept was to reimagine a virtual telehealth model like Teladoc to develop a solution that would meet millennials' needs without impacting their pocket. However, I found that Teladoc itself was not a financially viable solution despite being a large enterprise. So the solution then evolved into developing an independently developed telehealth option, But the ramp up and costs associated with that solution were also not financially sound and did not push the level of uniqueness I was really hoping to achieve. And then it hit me. Telehealth is just one component of the overall needs of the segment. The solution cannot address a part of the whole. It needs to be a more comprehensive solution that addresses the sum. So what emerged was an application that supports wellness, healthcare, diet, life, retirement guidance, and even finances, along with providing price transparency on its services. It's a marriage of multiple services into one powerful app guiding life concepts that were never properly instilled or taught by the prior generation. And it will empower millennials to take control over their overall lifestyles and guide them through strategies to address the factors that are really driving these emerging conditions. It's intuitive, it's personally tailored to the individual, all based on their current data, which is input by the user, and links to other applications. It takes the guessing game out and provides specific coaching and actionable steps on what the user should do next, such as scheduling an appointment, going for a walk, reordering vitamins, etc. It's exactly what millennials are asking and wanting. It provides instant gratification, efficient information on health and wellness, price transparency, and is easily accessible. Meet Sam, the evolved version of Alexa, and in partnership with Amazon, a more comforting and interconnected option for millennials to achieve all their lifestyle, health, and wellness goals. Because recent trends revealed that free mobile apps with in-app purchases account for over 90% of downloads and generate more revenue than paid applications by almost 50%, this product will be free to users with in-app purchase options and subscription-based services. So that will help to support the generation of multiple streams of revenue and add to a more diversified portfolio mix of services. So the partnership with Amazon will also support organic growth and the product with Amazon's existing client base. So there is also an additional value proposition given it is available via a variety of devices such as iOS, Android, and can connect with Amazon's Halo fitness trackers as well. The application is developed with a target persona in mind to really create an augmented sense of value, like Tiffany Campbell, a single 36-year-old with a bachelor's degree in marketing and residing in Atlanta, Georgia. She makes close to $90,000 a year. Her lifestyle is filled with traveling, working over 55 hours a week, and weekends filled with going to fun events with friends. She works out infrequently and only goes to the physician when ill. She has a retirement fund, but no real knowledge of overseeing it and does not have a savings or cushion really established. She feels burnt out, mainly from her disproportionate work-life balance, and is experiencing low self-esteem and confidence levels. So via Sam's consumer engagement strategies and targeted approach to speaking to Tiffany, it will create an augmented value that can help Tiffany reach her goals. Once Tiffany downloads Sam, and based on her data input, she will receive a tailored roadmap of suggestions and a development plan for the year. Not only will she receive a plan upfront, she will also receive a breakdown of price offerings per service plan and a discounted offer at the forefront if she signs up for a monthly or annual subscription for an even more customized plan. So that offering can start at $65.99 for mental health, fitness, dietary suggestions, and financial service bundling, for example. Now that we've reviewed the product, let's discuss the product's execution strategy. There is a 4-phase approach to finalization of details, secured partnership, development, and product launch. Scaling out these activities in this fashion will allow for further refinement in any of the given phases as needed, but it also helps to silo certain activities in a scalable and streamlined fashion. While still early in the development stages, an integral first step was to develop a strong partnership that could not only assist with the financial support of the application's development, but to provide clout to the application once launched in the marketplace. Amazon naturally became the primary target to partner with, especially with their desire to augment their breakthrough services in the healthcare space. They are currently establishing a digital medical, pharmaceutical, and mental health services in the industry, and Sam would really help with aggregating these services as well as other applications to a singular product and solution. So because Amazon is such an industry giant, the partnership structure would be a lucrative deal to assist with their goal of expansion in the healthcare marketplace, all by developing Sam and providing necessary support services in exchange for greater equity. So some of those services would include legal, compliance, IT support, and even the development of the product itself. With use of Amazon's AI and cloud infrastructures, there's an opportunity to augment the personalization function for the product while maintaining a secure model to support data protection and its integrity. So after achieving buy-in in phase 1, it will be necessary during the second phase to finalize the overarching strategy of the product development and the product's infrastructure. This time will be spent fine-tuning the product's functionality, infrastructure, and data encryption, as well as privacy policies. A build-out phase associated with functionality and structure design will be completed along with a finalized budget with build-out and marketing costs. Phase 3 of the execution plan primarily focuses on marketing. A key strategy for this product's marketing strategy is the use of influencers that will support securing leads, given that research proves millennials rely on brand and product recommendations via reviews and social media outlets. So the goal is to make this a targeted and tailored experience, and to achieve that, we need to research the ideal persona's research activities. This will allow marketing campaigns to touch the audience through speakable moments and relatable experiences. During that time, there will also be a focus on customer support plans to ensure the overall experience remains superior for the target market. This includes frequent engagement with the persona via social media and monthly touch-base calls to ensure the services and application meet the user's needs. Testing phases of the product's design will also be launched to ensure that any breaks are corrected. Before launching the product, selecting a sample group for testing during the fourth phase will be integral. So the goal is to obtain their feedback on the design's intuitiveness and features so any other further refinements can be made. Marketing and consumer engagement strategies will be finalized during this phase with a planned approach to a scheduled launch of such marketing strategies over 12 months. And finally, the hope is, barring any unforeseen challenges, to launch the product at the end of this phase. As mentioned previously, this issue has many tentacles that make it a rather challenging issue as a whole. It must be addressed to prevent further impacts on the economy. And while many factors are causing this issue to perpetuate, there is an opportunity first and foremost to stop the bleed. SAM is a unique and innovative solution to addressing the problem via its convenience, customization, and likable prices. With the backing of Amazon, it will have organic reliability and sophisticated tech offerings that millennials look for in tech products. SAM will be the beacon of light, or the steward of achieving qualitative life goals for each millennial, and will serve as an industry disruptor that the healthcare sector has not yet seen. It can help stop the bleed we are seeing today and empower millennials to become more proactive than reactive with their health and establish healthier boundaries for themselves. More importantly, the data obtained from this product will provide precise insights into the root causes of bad habits and behavioral mindsets that can help with implementing course correction development plans in the future. It therefore becomes a reactive response to an issue with compounding effects for a more proactive state. Thank you for listening to my presentation today. As you reflect on the problem I have unearthed and shined a light on, along with contemplating and establishing a map for a solution, I hope your greatest takeaway is that you too can do something similar to an issue in society or to the environment that you are most passionate about. We can each become the steward of resolution for these problems and leave our thumbprints on this world to make it a better place.